Thank you, Mohammed. Now I want to show my connections. Mallard mushroom, huge mallard mushroom. Number one in the Middle East.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Adelan. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to explain about the activities that we have at Mallard Mushroom Farm. It's actually it is really huge. It's massive because we have different activities in here, from receiving raw materials, from making compost, down to producing mushrooms. So we have all different units in here. Obviously, in here we are in the area where we store the raw material for compost. And I would say, in terms of, because making phase one compost, we need three main raw material, which is wheat straw, chicken manure, and gypsum. Yeah, Mallard Farm is actually a big package of different activities. So what we do in here, we produce phase 1 and 2 compost. We don't have phase 3, but we do up to phase 2. And then we have our own spawn producing unit. So we produce our own spawn for phase 2 compost. And obviously then we produce mushrooms as well. So we have different units. In here, I believe that I want to let you know about the capacity of what we're doing in here. So with the phase 1 compost, we do at the moment, because we have the capacity to expand, and we will do probably later this year or next year. But at the moment, we produce over 2,000 tons of phase 1, and we per week, and this will as phase 2, it will come out as about 1,500, so 1,500 tons of phase 2 per week. This is the capacity of phase of composting. And in terms of the raw material with the straw, like the storing area that you can see in here, this is for our big bales, but we have 10 or 15 areas or spots where we store the straw in 2 different sizes. So we have big bales like this and small bales, but in different area. Okay. In terms of straw consumption in here, we use, with the current capacity, again, I have emphasized on the current capacity because we will extend soon. But anyway, with the current capacity of phase 1, we're using about 30 to 32,000 tons of straw per year. Okay, so annually. And we have like 10 to 15 spots like this, and each of them contain about 3 to 4,000 tons of straw. So we have 10 to 15 of these spots around the whole farm. Well, it's been dunked, and I just want to check the moisture. Yeah, it definitely needs more. But what we do, we mix it up. We keep adding water, woody water. Lumps, chicken lumps.
What is this, Mohammed? Why this has this shape, like lump?
Yeah, this is our chicken manure storage area. So we actually pile them up in big mountains, and yes, you can see this unevenness. For example, we have these lumps of manure. See the lumps? And we have it in powder as well. So it's actually a mixture of chicken manure.
This
lumps.
is for which kind of the chicken? This is layer?
This is broiler.
Broiler.
This is broiler, not layers. No, this is broiler. Normally the compost yards for making mushroom compost, they use broiler because the layers, they are very wet. It's hard to distribute. It's not easy. So, but the broiler manure, we have a moisture of about 20 to 40%, so it varies a lot. And the nitrogen level, again, from 2.5 to 3.5% of nitrogen. And yes, so to avoid, this is uneven, I understand.
This is exactly that we receive, yes?
Yeah, this is
What should we do after?
Yeah, so what we pile them up here, and then what we do with that, we actually mill it. We mill it in that area.
Yes.
I can see. I can show you that area.
Okay.
And then we mill it. We mill it.
What is the name of this operation?
It's milling chicken manure. We actually, by doing this, we get rid of the lumps. We get rid of the lumps and mix it as well. So the end material, you can see. We can't go closer, but it's the end of it. Okay? Nice powder, even powder. Yeah. So
What is the chemical name?
Yeah, it's calcium sulfate.
What is its rule?
The calcium sulfate, the gypsum, it's actually a mine gypsum. Remember, it's different from gypsum that people use in construction. Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah, so it has 2 molecules of water in it. So when you look at gypsum's molecular structure, you can see that calcium sulfate plus 2 molecules of water, H2O. Okay, so and what is it? It's the third most important raw material in phase 1. So what it does, it has 2 main roles. One is adjusting the pH.
Reduce or increase?
Well, this will reduce because of the sulfate anion. Okay. So what happens is in phase 1, throughout phase 1, because of all the reactions, chemicals and biochemical reactions, the pH tends to go up. Okay. It wants to reach to 9. The pH reaches 9, even 10, and we don't want that to go up that high. So what we do, we use gypsum to hold the pH down to 8.8 to 8.5. Okay, and it's important in sort of biological reactions in the compost that is done by microorganisms. So that's one thing. The other thing in phase 1 is to avoid stickiness, so greasiness. Okay, it avoids the compost fibers to stick together, because it's, as you can see, because of its structure. Okay, it goes when we mix it with the compost fibers, it will avoid the greasiness actually. Okay, and there's another role later on with this gypsum, and that's when you have the mycelium run through the compost. So when in compost run, in other words, in compost run, when the mycelium grows vegetatively, the mycelium secretes oxalate acid. Okay, and that is no good because it will reduce the pH, and this material will avoid this reduction of pH. Why? Because the calcium will combine with oxalic acid and will produce calcium oxalate, which is a salt. Okay, so that's another important role when the mycelium is running through phase 2 compost. We do mix the chicken manure and gypsum. For example, this pile. This pile is a mixture of chicken manure and gypsum. You can see the whiteness of gypsum as well as the chicken manure. Can you see the The gypsum here.
In composting, we need the wheat straw, chicken manure, and the gypsum.
And gypsum, yeah.
You mean is the immediately after the receiving the chicken manure, we should mix with the
No,
gypsum?
no,
Oh,
never,
okay,
never.
then
We store it first. We store the chicken manure, and we shouldn't have a storage of more than 2 to 3 months of consumptions, because chicken manure start to change color, start to burn.
maximum
even
3
burn.
months we should use it.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months. So that's a different story. So we have a storage for raw chicken manure, but in here, in this area, we actually mix the gypsum. I will show you gypsum later on. We'll mix gypsum and chicken manure.
Now I mean this in this period we should mix the gypsum and the chicken manure, yes?
Yes.
It doesn't need to, again in the bunker with the adding the gypsum, only in this stage.
Only one stage at the day of breakout. So when we feed the mixing line with the wet straw, at the same time we use the chicken manure, and if you ask me the rate, it will be about 55 to 60% of chicken manure per ton of straw.
Okay, for example, now let me nudge you to, you mentioned the volume of the compost. How many percentage the chicken manure?
Yeah, as I said, about 60% of
60%.
60%. So
With the
per 1 ton of straw, we use 600 kilos or less of chicken manure.
Chicken and how much gypsum?
Gypsum is about 10% of straw. So I mean, for 1 ton of straw, for 1 ton of straw, we use 100 kilos of gypsum.
Oh, you are here in the phase 1.
Yeah, we are on phase 1 yard at the moment. So at phase 1, there are different stages. The very first stage at phase 1, composting, is wetting the wheat straw. So wetting this wheat straw can be done in different ways. In here, in Mallard Mushroom Farm, we do it in 2 different ways. With the small bales, we have to do this way, as you can see. So we actually fill it in the wetting ponds, straw wetting ponds, and use the nozzle to wet the whole mass of straw. But the second one is over there in that corner, is where we use the dunking system to dunk and wet the big bales. So we have small bales and big bales, and we have to mix them up. So it's the portion is normally 50%.
I'll have to about using the new method for the couple of seconds,
Yeah. Actually, we use the fork bucket with the loaders to push the big bales down in the water, in the goody water, and we leave it there for about 90 or 100 seconds, and that's it. They come out and they will lie down like this, and we cut the strings out and then start mixing. And after mixing, the whole wet straw will go on top of the aerated floor. So on that aerated floor, it will go through the microbial process. So the microbial process will get the microbes to grow in the straw and get the heat up, as well as changing the color, changing the smell, and make this straw ready to receive the nitrogen source, which is the chicken manure. And if you go closer to that machine, that's the mixing line. You can see that in this film. It's the mixing line, that long one, and that mixing line receives the wet straw from the aerated floor on that end, and then in the middle it receives the chicken manure. It mixes everything up, and it will drop down at the end of the machine.
Each bunker how many tunnels we can fill for each bunker?
Each bunker can fill 4 tunnels, 4 phase 2 tunnels, and because each phase 2 tunnel can take about 130 tons of phase 1. So one phase bunker in here can get between 500 to 600 tons of phase 1. Okay, about 500 to 600 tons.
What is happening here? What is happening here exactly? For example, this big straw, some people are fresh and they don't know anything about the mushroom and they want to start. For starting, how many bunkers we need for starting? For example, it needs 2 bunkers, 3 bunkers for starting. Mallard is huge, I know. But for example, for starting, the minimum bunker, the minimum fuel that we need.
Well, normally you can have 1 to 3 bunkers, depending on what the capacity of your phase 1 composting. But the main thing is that in phase 1, what happens is mixing the raw material and then
With straw?
with straw, chicken manure and gypsum, which is
Gypsum.
calcium sulfate. Later on I'll show you these 3 types of raw material. But the most important one is that after mixing, the fermentation will occur. So fermentation will occur in these bunkers, phase 1 bunkers. We normally keep the compost in phase 1 for about 11 to 12 days. And
First bunker?
No, 11 to 12 days total phase 1 period. Yeah. But in each bunker the compost will sit there for about 3 days, 4 days sometimes. Okay, so 3 transfers we'll have 3 transfers from one bunker to another. So each 11 to 12 days of phase 1 period, we will have 3 bunker movements all along.
And what temperature inside usually?
In the bunkers we normally have temperature of from 75 up to 83, 84 degrees, but it's good to have over 80 degrees in the compost. But obviously it depends what stage you are in. In the first stage you have a little bit lower sort of temperature. As it goes by, the temperature will go higher than 80. It reaches 84 degrees. That will in that sort of temperature you will have the chemical reactions in the compost, which is the browning reaction and all the other reactions in phase 1 compost to make the nice nitrogen-rich compost for the mushrooms.
You told me about the over the 80, which the number. What is the maximum temperature?
84 to 85 degrees.
85.
Yeah.
84 the bed, 3 days we can store and then change
And then
to another
you transfer to another bunker.
to another bunker.
Yeah,
Here
yeah.
what
So
happened?
it goes through the bunkers 3 times.
Again, 3 days
Yeah.
we can store here.
Yeah, and then again we'll transfer to another bunker. But in here we have like 12 bunkers that the compost will move around. Okay, so the guys know which is which one is ready, for example, for filling the tunnel, which one is very fresh. But from the color also you can differ the compost state.
During 10 days, all the comp temperature is the 84 to 85 degrees.
It depends. It's from 76, 77 degrees up to 84 degrees. But the best achievement will happen when you have over 80 degrees in the bunker, phase 1.
Now please show us the bunker, how many bunkers we have, the capacity of the bunker.
Okay, so at Mallard Mushroom Farm we have 12 bunkers. We had 9, but we added, so 12 bunkers in total. And in here actually the capacity of this farm at the moment is over 2,000 tons of phase 1 compost per week. It's about 21 to 2,200 tons of phase 1 per week. And we do do make the batches in actually 3 batches. So 3 batches every week. We have batch A, B, and C. And each bunker fills, stop it.
Here,
This stage we're actually filling phase 1 compost, phase 2 tunnel. Nice and even thermophils. Actinomycetes and thermophils on the compost. That's part of the food for the mycelium, for the mushroom mycelium.
There are pasteurization.
Yeah, pasteurization tunnels. As I said, we have 12 tunnels. 4 of them were built many years ago, and then we added 2, and then another few, and made it 12 in total. This is actually the emptying side. We have 2 doors, so we have double door system. The other door on the other end is for filling the compost, filling phase 1 compost. So phase 2 tunnel, as I said, we have 2 doors. The other door that you see sitting on the other end is for filling, and this door that's open is for emptying the tunnel. Each tunnel has 25 meters of length and 4 meters of width. And we normally fill about 130, from 120 to 100.
What is the capacity of compost?
Yeah, I'm just telling you that. So about 120, 125 tons of phase 1 compost we can fill. We can sometimes, depends on the bulk density of the compost, but sometimes we can fill higher and reach 130, 135 tons of phase 1 compost. important one is that these tunnels, they are spigot floor system. So I want to show you the spigots here. You probably can see this hole. So each tunnel has about 3,000 holes like that, and that will create the air that will be pushed up to the compost from those small spigot holes. Yeah, we are in phase 2 tunnel, and you can see the compost, you can see the thermofield. Very nice thermofield growing on the compost very evenly. This room, the compost, phase 1 compost was filled up to 3 meters, and after 6 days that it goes through the leveling, warm-up, pasteurization, conditioning and all that, which will go through the phase 2 tunnel will be about 6 days. And after 6 days, the ammonia in the tunnel will be tested, and when it's under 5 ppm, the compost is ready for cooling down. You got to remember that phase 1 will settle about nearly 1 meter, sometimes less than 1 meter, about 800 meters, 800 mil, sorry, 800 mil or about 1 meter settled. And after 6 days, the compost is ready to empty and to fill the rooms, growing rooms, or we block them out and sell them out.
Here we have the pit straw, and
Let's talk about this compost outside.
then we have pit straw and
Yeah, well, this is the compost. This is phase 2 compost. Nice structure. I'm happy with the structure. It's not too dense. It's not too long, and we can see the thermophils. We can see the actinomycetes and the thermophils. You can see those white flakes spread in the compost. To check the density, you can just push it like this, and it should actually spring back if the compost has nice structure. Italian machine. This is an Alpi machine. This is the hopper, so it receives the compost from the loader, and then it goes up, and then we spoon it up there. There's a spoon applicator up there, and it goes through the blocking line, and finally that will be wrapped through the plastic sheet. We have our own logo, the Mallard Farm logo. You can see that on the top one. And finally, we end up with about like blocks of 17 to 18 kilos each. Yeah. We have 12 tunnels active. 1, 2, so 12 tunnels active. Each tunnel can yield about 100 to 110 tons of phase 2, and we do phase 2 in 6 days, pasteurization and conditioning.
number one in the Middle East, and tell me how many growing you have and what you can spend, how many you spend, and how many growing this dimension.
Yeah, in Mallard Mushroom Farm we have 38 rooms, and everything is centralized in this farm. So we have 38 rooms. Each room has 1,008 square meters of growing surface, growing area, and this corridor in length is over 200 meters. So this corridor is over 200 meters. Each room, as I said, has 1,008 square meters of growing area. The other thing that is interesting in this area is that we have sinks for the pickers or even the growers to wash their hands. We also have other facilities in here, like this boot washer. This boot washer, you can actually wash your shoes. Why? Because it's very important. Hygiene and cleanliness is important in a mushroom farm.
Today is the first day of the fair. I'm not sure.
Yeah, in this room, the blocks were filled yesterday, so this is actually day one of spawning. This room, you can see that it was filled with blocks, but in this farm, the majority of the rooms are filled in bulk, not in blocks. Sometimes it depends. Sometimes they have to fill in blocks. As you can see, the blocks weigh about 20 kilos. About 20 kilos.
Dimension 40 by 60.
Yeah, 400 by 600 mil. And I can show you the spawn, the top spawn. You can see the top spawn. So normally when we produce the blocks, obviously you can see the spawn in the guts as well. Okay, and then after it's produced, there's another spawn applicator to top spawn it, and then it's blocked.
Environmental conditions like temperature, humidity.
Yeah, in here there's not much activity in here, to be honest, and there will not be in the next 3 to 4 days. But as soon as the blocks are filled in the room, like it was yesterday, the temperature, we try to keep the temperature in the compost within 24, 25 for the first few days, and obviously as soon as the mycelium start biting through the compost, then slowly the temperature will go up, and day 7 or 8 it reaches higher sort of activity, and the mycelium will try to grab the food and obviously generates heat. And what we need to do is to keep the compost temperature in a range of 25 to 27, as I said, maximum 28. Even 28 is not recommendable. Is not recommended. Sorry. So yeah. So
And the humidity.
The humidity as high as possible, as high as possible, higher than 95%.
CO2
and CO2 again, high as
10,000.
5,000 to 10,000. But in this room, as I said, because it's very fresh, this compost was spawned yesterday, so there's not much activity in here, and so obviously and the other thing is that because it's wrapped in plastic sheet, the CO2 will be kept in here, and the environment will have higher CO2, but later throughout the spawn run.
How many days later we should the cutting and the logistic bed and the fertilization? How many days will be coming us the best time?
It depends. Sometimes some people leave the blocks like this until the end of the spawn run. So they may cut the top off.
You mean that the time you wait in the casing soil, then you
Yeah,
cut?
yeah. They cut the day before. They cut the top off day before casing, and then level it out, level the surface, makes it nice and flat day before casing. And
We do that
sometimes,
with the machine, yes, we do that with the machine.
yeah, with the machinery we can use to make it level, but not when we have the blocks. The blocks, because there's plastic in the way, it's not easy to use that the machinery. But what we do, we try to fill the gaps with the extra compost. You can see some blocks here and there, just to use to fill the gaps. And sometimes people will cut the top off as soon as they fill and then level it. But if you do that, then you have to cover the compost with perforated plastic sheet. Otherwise, you lose the moisture of the compost.
Back to this. What substrate we have inside this foam? This substrate.
It's compost. What
With
do you-
straw.
Oh, you mean the compost? I will explain more about the compost and the raw material that we use to make the compost. But just briefly, we produce our compost from wheat straw, chicken manure, and gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, and water, obviously.
And a sponge.
And then, yeah, after phase 1, we send the compost to phase 2, and after pasteurization and conditioning, when the compost is ready to receive the spawn, the mushroom spawn, it will be spawned and it will end up here in the growing house.
Okay, in this room.
We are in casing stage in this room, so I'm sorry, we had to, normally at this stage the fan is very high, but we can't hear it because we had to reduce the fan speed, otherwise you can't hear me. So this room has been in spawn run for 16 days, and after 16 days of spawning, you can see the mycelium will grow throughout the whole compost material. And if I rub it like this, I actually smash the mycelium off, you can see it turns to sort of reddish type of color, and when you smell it, it smells nice and sweet of mycelium. Do you want to smell it?
Sweet.
Very nice, very nice and sweet. Okay, so yeah, so as I said, today we cased this room. It's been 16 days on the mycelium run, and throughout the mycelium run, because it's completely vegetative growth, so mycelium will grow through the compost and uses the food of compost. That in this stage during the compost run, generally say compost run, we have the compost temperature at about 26, 27. Sometimes it may go up to 28, but obviously we have to use our fan and air temperature to cool it down, and we don't let it go higher than 27.
Temperature
28.
inside 26.
Yes.
And what is the temperature now with the environment?
In the air, you have a temperature of about 20, sometimes even lower, because the compost at the stage of day 12, 13, 14 will be very active, and this activity has to be sort of held back, otherwise it will heat up and will burn itself. So what we have to do, using the air handling units and the chiller, we obviously cool the temperature down, cool the air down, and that will help the compost to hold around like 26, 27 degrees in the core of the compost.
Therefore, 6 centigrade the difference between the compost temperature and the air temperature is normal.
Yeah, the difference is about like 5, 6, 7, and sometimes 8 degrees.
And
Yeah.
about the
So
humidity inside.
the humidity has to be very high. So 95%.
95.
Sort of saturated. You know?
And the CO2, carbon dioxide.
CO2 again very high. So during vegetative growth, when you have the mycelium growing through the compost or even through the casing soil, in these 2 stages, the CO2 is very high. It's sometimes
Tell me a number, for example.
Sorry?
Tell me a number.
A number between 5 to 10,000 ppm, and when it's higher than 5,000, when you come to the room, it's hard to breathe when the CO2 is high.
Now they are ready for the casing soil.
Yes, they are ready for the case.
Is there any
casing.
sign? The sign is that all should be covered with the mycelium run completely.
Yeah,
done with the
yeah.
white.
You can easily see the mycelium has grown up, and it's completely full of mycelium everywhere. It's full of mycelium, and it's actually ready for casing. If we go to the to the next one,
You should show us. You should
I
show
will
us the,
show you.
how we can the casing.
I will
with the
show
casing
you
soil.
that.
Amazing.
I'll show you that.
Now this is the casing soil. Yeah.
So in here, half of the room has been cased using the casing wagon and all the machinery that we use to case the compost. In here, you can see the layer of casing. It's been laid down on the compost using those machinery, and you can also see some compost, the full-grown compost on top of this casing. This is actually the cack. So this will act as a cack, and when we do the ruffling with the ruffler, you will see that the mycelium, this compost, will go through and will be mixed with the casing, and this casing will be cacked as well. And this cacking,
No. What is the meaning of the cack?
the cack is actually compost at casing. So that's the abbreviation of compost at casing. So when you add some full-grown compost to the casing, it means the action of cacking. And this cacking will help the mycelium to grow faster through the casing. So that will reduce the number of case run, and will that will help to reduce the period that the casing will grow through the casing, ready for the next stage, which is cool down.
For the cacking, how much this compost is needed per square meter?
Oh, that's a good question. So it's roughly, just a rule of thumb, roughly you need about 400 to 500 grams per square meter of the room, of the growing surface. So you add that. We normally spread it on top of the casing, the required amount, and then run the ruffler to mix the cack with the casing.
All happens by machine.
The ruffler, yeah. I can show you the
Okay.
ruffler here. This machine,
Now, what is the mechanism of the ruffler? Okay, this is the correct name.
ruffler. Okay, so on this level, as you can see, it's been cased already, and we've spread the cack on top of the casing, and then we use this ruffler to mix the casing soil with the compost. So this is the ruffling stage, day 0. You can see how it's mixed. It has to be evenly mixed, the compost and the casing soil, and creates a very nice type of uneven surface. We don't need any flat surface. We need this unevenness. It's very important for us to generate the stagger when we get the mushrooms on the surface. So it's important to do this evenly and to have all the cash, all the compost mix it through the casing homogeneously.
Happening here. What is this?
Yeah, well, that's the machinery that we use to case the room. So as I said, we were in the room. The room was 16-day-old, so the compost has been through the case run for 16 days, and today is the day that we case. We use this machinery to cover the compost with casing soil.
Here,
Composter, this red trailer is actually the machine that carry the casing. Casing soil will come out like this. You can see how bumpy casing soil is, and this will go up with this conveyor belt, and using that head filling machine, we will run the casing wagon on top of the compost, and that will actually lay the casing on the compost across the whole bed.
Now, Muhammad, tell us what is the story of the cooling, aeration, in a simple language.
Okay, so in this room we have actually cooled down for 4 days. So we are in cooling or cooling down stage. As you can see, the mycelium is trying to tangle up and start to form the pins. You can see that they actually thicken up and form the pins. You can't see any pins at the moment, but you can see the very origin of the pins. For example, in here or in here, that the mycelium is thick. That will probably tomorrow or day after you can then see the pins. Okay, so in this room you can actually also see a fan. That fan, because these rooms are very long, that fan will help the distribution of the air, because it's important. We need a very even and homogeneous sort of air movement or air distribution all around the levels and the racks of the room. In a room, you obviously need to reduce 3 parameters: temperature, humidity, and CO2. All 3 will go down slowly. So, for example, if we start airing the room from 21 degrees, we eventually will reach 17, but in 4 days.
Environment temperature.
Yes, yeah, air temperature. And humidity as well. Normally the humidity is high at casing when the mycelium is running vegetatively. But if we want to change this vegetative growth or vegetative stage to generative growth, we need to change all those 3 elements that I've mentioned: temperature, humidity, and air humidity, and the CO2. And yeah, so humidity will go down to about 89% at the end of the airing. CO2 as well. CO2 from very high of 5 to 10,000 ppm, that will go down to about 2,000, 1,100 ppm.
Now it's 10,000 ppm.
It's low now. It's low now. It must be 15. Today is day 4, so probably higher than that. Probably about 2,000 or 3,000. Yeah. And the other thing that is important is the floor. So when we air the room to dry the room out and to reduce the humidity, we have to keep the floor dry. So we don't, at this stage, we don't need to keep it wet. That's why we have dry floor. It's important.
What's the main reason it's Roma?
Yeah. Okay. So we have two types of fluffiness of the mycelium. One is overlay, and the other one is stroma. And they shouldn't be mixed up because they are two different things. Stromas, they normally come up with the on the surface because of the degenerated spawn, for example. So there's something wrong with the genetics of the mycelium. That's why the stroma will be formed. But overlay is different. Overlay is too much mycelium. When you leave the mycelium to grow on the surface on top of the casing soil, that will be overlay, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you can probably knock it down with the water. But unfortunately, with the stroma, when the stroma forms like this, that will turn to, like, to yellowish or a brownish type of color, and there will be no pins growing on that. So stroma is not a good thing. You have to avoid that, and that is obviously when you go for good spawn, commercially high quality spawn.
How we should combat with them? How we should combat?
It's hard, to be honest, to if you want to fight with the stroma, because if it's stroma, it keeps growing like this. Even if you scratch it like this and get rid of it, that sometimes that will grow back again, and that will form this type of thing. But the end of the story is that when you have stroma, that you won't have any mushrooms on top of the stroma, and it shouldn't be mixed up with the overlay. Overlay is something else.
Yeah, this room.
Okay, in this room has been cooled down 9 days ago. Okay, so 9 days after cooling, and you can see the pins have grown, and even we have some mushrooms on. The most important thing in here is that the ability of creating stagger. So stagger is very, very important, and stagger is nothing but different generations. Okay, for example, in here you can see the first generation. Obviously these mushrooms, the bigger mushrooms, you can see they are the first generation, and we have very, very tiny pins that will grow later on and will generate more pins and more mushrooms. Obviously, important one is that when you create the stagger on the beds, you should be able to have like at least 4 generations, and 4 generations will allow you to pick for 5 days. That's the important one. And it's in the bad rooms, you will have all the mushrooms come together. When the condition is not right, you don't have a nice uneven casing soil, or you have dry casing, and you don't have good material in the casing soil or in the environment of the room. You will end up with too many pins which come all together, and you have to pick the room in 2 days and sometimes 3, which is not very good. But when you can when you have better sort of casing soil material, you have a very good watering regime, you manage your watering very well, and the environment obviously as well, then you can create watering regime, nice casing soil, nice material, nice and damp, unevenness in the surface, and a good environment. I'm talking about the cooling process, cooling down process. We can create that staggering. The staggering is important to generate different mushroom sizes, and these mushroom sizes, different mushroom sizes, are very important to allow the pickers to pick in a few days, like in 5, 6, even 7 days. So you can see the different sizes. I can show you on this bed. You have bigger sizes, like the first generation, like these, and then you have a little smaller.
What are the name of these? These the different size. For example, this is. Please tell us this. For example, what is the name of these?
The name,
step by step to the converted to the.
Yeah, well, in terms of names, I just can tell you. I actually commonly call them, the grandfather, father, and the children. Okay, so after that, you will have those smaller pins, and for example, these will grow later on, and even the very small ones, some of them are still alive. Some of those small ones, for example, this one that has burst, this will grow definitely. So you can see, we can see about 4 generations on this bed, about 4 generations, and that's a succeeding sort of succeeding term for to have a nice 5, 6 days of picking. Very important.
Thank you. Now Muhammad, show us the picking of mushroom.
Yeah, definitely. We are in a room that the growing area is about 1,000 square meters, and we have 4 rows, so pretty big rooms here we have. And in this room we are in first flush, second day of first flush, and we are picking actually the big mushrooms for today. You can see we pick in different sizes, different punnet sizes. For example, on this trolley we have 1,000 grams and 200 grams. Okay, so one of the most important things in picking is that we have to sort. So the pickers need to sort straight when they are picking. Okay, so for example, we have smaller caps in here and a little bigger in there. So sorting has to be followed and met. The best case scenario is to have bigger mushrooms in bigger size sort of punnets, and obviously smaller in smaller punnets. Another important thing at picking is obviously cleanliness. So everything must be clean. The punnets, the crates, the pickers, they need to have clean clothes. They need to use hair nets, gloves, clean knives, and everything. So everything must be clean in a mushroom farm in general. Talking about the rules of picking, I probably must mention one of the most important things, which is the length of the stalk. So the length of the stalk has to be about half of the thickness of the cap. For example, in this mushroom you can see almost the best length size, because it's very important. If you pick it too short, you lose the weight, and if you pick it too long, it's not nice. It doesn't look nice, obviously. So it's important to have the right size. And the other thing is it has to be straight. I can show you here. This was cut incorrectly, and you can see how crooked it is. It shouldn't be like that, and we have to always go for a straight type of cutting at the stalk. Another rule that needs to be met at picking is the way that the mushrooms are placed in the punnets. I'm trying to show you, if the camera is filming here, this is the incorrect one, so the caps are not on the right position, but the rest, you can see the caps are upward. So the caps must be upward. If you put them like this, incorrect. Okay. portion with the thickness of the cap.
Thank you.
Which is very important at picking, and it's really determining for the pickers, is that they need to know what mushroom has to be picked at the minute. Okay, so for example, when you look at this area, you face some clumps like that. Okay, so these are sort of clumps. Okay, so with the clumps like this, you need to do thinning. Thinning is very important, because if you leave it like this, tomorrow they won't have enough room to grow. So what you need to do is to pick the ones that are sort of in the way of others. To me, for today, this has to be picked. So what you do, you just knock it off like this, and you leave that one on so that tomorrow it will be bigger. So what you have to do is to probably pick another one from here, and by knocking you can take it off, and this you can leave for tomorrow. Obviously that will be much bigger for tomorrow and gives you more weight. Another rule when you want to pick is that you have to be careful with your arm, or if you have a sleeve here and you leave it like this, you will touch the mushrooms under here and you will damage them. Okay, so try to be up above, and you don't touch, your arm shouldn't touch any of them, and you just need your hand free to do picking. Okay, and the other one that you need to follow is, when you pick, use your fingers and try to avoid stick the cap to the palm of your hand. The reason for that is because mushrooms are very delicate. Okay, they are very delicate. So as soon as you touch them, they start discoloring. Obviously it depends on the quality of the mushrooms, and the higher quality will be damaged less, but in general there's a system, we call it a one-touch system. And one-touch system means you just pick and place it in the punnet or in the package, whatever it is. Okay, so another important one is that when you pick, you hold it like this, and when you want to pick the next mushroom, you have to pick the other fingers like this.
This is the correct, yes?
Yes, this is the correct
and
one.
incorrect, please show us, because people don't want to touch. Okay, this is the wrong.
People,
yes?
yeah. So when you keep your mushrooms very close to your hands or fingers, you try to discolor the mushroom, which is not a good practice. Okay. Follow the rule of moving the arm, okay, correctly. So when you move your hands going for a mushroom, you're gonna watch where your arm moves. Obviously, again, for example, if you have sleeve on your clothes and you do it like this and you pick, so you're gonna damage. See that you have a touch in here, and this will damage the surface of the cap. Or if you're too low and you want to move your arm, you may nudge and knock one of those mushrooms off, which is not a good practice. So always try to be above and your hand free to do the picking. Thank you. To mention in this clip is that the racks where they are very close to the I mean actually the first rack, which is close to the wall, is obviously where the air duct is, and because we have a push from the air, normally the first and second level of the racks will get too dry because of this air force. So to avoid drying these areas out, or even the mushrooms, and to avoid the scaliness and things like that, you better use a plastic sheet. Obviously it's off because the pickers are now doing their job in here in this room, but when they finish, that can be down again and protect these levels from the air blowing and dry them out.